Hello everyone, and welcome to our technical training webinar on the Leica Reality Capture software updates of 2025. These came out a couple of months ago, so we're quite excited to go through these updates. It's overdue. We'll start with some exciting news, and then I'll cover the 3DR updates, and Lennon will cover the Register 360 and Field 360 updates. If you have any questions, please put them in the questions tab. We do expect to go the full hour today, so please leave your questions, and if we don't get a chance to cover them, we'll make sure we send you an email afterwards. So last year we had our first inaugural ArchNZ user conference. We had a range of speakers across a load of different topics, and we sold out with over 100 people attending. We can now announce that it's coming back. We're going to have our next ArchNZ conference in March 13th, 2026. It's tentative at the moment, but we do have the same venue tentatively held, so the Sudama Hotel. The theme will be automation across capture, processing, and delivery workflows for reality capture data. So please keep an eye out on your inbox in November for the invite. If you have any content ideas or you would like to speak, please reach out to one of the Global Survey Reality Capture team, and we'd be happy to take any ideas on board. On that note, we have had a new member of staff join us about nearly 6 months now, Thomas Mappy. He has over a decade of surveying experience, and he's covered quite a range of reality capture devices. So welcome, Thomas, and you can reach out to him if you ever have any reality capture questions. So onto the updates. Cyclone 3DR 2025. So this is covering the 2025.1 and above updates, and the current version is 2025.1.6. I'm going to start with a demo and dive right into it. I'm going to cover kind of 5 of the key features. So this site should be familiar to those of you that are in Auckland. It's Silo Park. So the first feature I'm going to cover is this magic wand. You've probably seen a lot of it online. It's smart object segmentation using AI. So when you pick on a feature with the wand, it will then start to isolate out in 2D the image. So what this has just done is it's frozen my screen and it's creating an outline from the image. And then you press enter and it does a 3D contour based on that initial image segmentation. So it's a 3-click workflow if you get it perfect each time. So 1 click to segment the image in 2D, 1 click to do it in 3D, and then the 3rd click to isolate out the feature. So this kind of like separation here, like I've had a few clients do it for power poles to separate them out, and then they'll go and use the extract points to get the bottom of the cylindrical feature to get the center point. That's quite a common one I've come across. I'll just show you guys again on a slightly larger feature. So if I was separating out one of the tanks, separating out or deleting, you just keep left clicking to isolate the area that you want. If you wanted something not to be included, you would you press shift and then left click and it would create a red dot. And that would kind of remove features. So 2D image, now clicked it and I've gone into 3D. And now I'm also left clicking again to isolate out that area again. Cool. So a pretty easy way to isolate out features that you might want to delete, or you might want to create a separate layer with just those features. It's not too like grunty compared to like a classification model, so you can do it quite quickly, even on like slightly lower spec machines. One thing that's come up a few times is like people wanting to isolate specific features on slightly smaller areas. I'd say this is quite a small site here with these BLK 360 scans. So an obvious way that I could use the isolated features would be to do a segmentation via distance of the features I've got. This is quite common when you're using it with classification workflows. But then you can make use of like all of the extraction options. So here, if I just wanted to get some best fit cylinders, it's quite a speedy way to do it. I'm going quite fast on this part. None of these are new features. These are just existing ones, but just to give you an idea of how the AI segmentation might be the start of a more automated workflow for your final goal. And there we have all of the extracted geometries of those cylinders alongside the point clouds there. So this smart object segmentation isn't just limited to the point clouds, it also covers the meshes. So exactly the same principle. If you go to the surface modeling tab and the clean and separate, the magic wand will appear. And same idea, you just start left clicking to pull out all of those features. And same thing, if you press shift and left click, you'll create an area that it doesn't include. So we've done images and meshes, both under the standard 3DR licensing. The next one is actually images. So if you have the survey edition, you can edit the masks using the AI tools to pull out people. So if you end up in high-vis plaster across the point cloud, I'm not in high-vis here, but same principle applies. You can click on the person and start to identify their whole area, and there's someone behind me as well. And you can just quickly pick out all of those. Cool. So I've pulled out a few people from the pictures here. So if you look at my initial mesh here, this is just done by the scan to mesh option with the automatic texturing. So quite a detailed one that's come through. But you can see I am all over it, along with some other people as well. So I didn't get out of the way very quickly. After isolating the pictures, you can then take that mesh, go into your texturing options, and I did just a smart texture and update current texturing. And from that, you can see a drastic improvement in the mesh. So all of those people gone straight away. So if any of you are doing like visualizations for stakeholder engagement or your proposals, it definitely is a dramatic improvement to the visualization side of things. So that's kind of the standard ones, and then onto the image segmentation under the survey edition. If you have any addition other than standard, the other thing you can do is under the classifications. So for this data set, I have got it classified using the outdoor classification model. And it's gotten a bit confused around some of these curve bits here. So if I go to manual classification, in here, I also have the magic wand. So if I click on this kind of curvy area, see if I can just reclassify it. I accidentally pressed the shift button in the wrong place there. So just be a bit careful with some of your clicks. Cool. So I've gotten that kind of blue area there, and I've just clicked the ground because I want to add it into that area. So just entering it. And I want to keep all of it and then add into active class. So a quick way to kind of update your separation there. So that's kind of the key features for a lot of the smart object segmentation there. But what you can also do with this as well is combine it with another new feature. So we now have a new clone LGS option within 3DR, which is awesome. So in this classification, you can see I've got a load of like people still in the data set. It's quite noisy. So if I take my data set and use the separate by classification option, I am going to remove the people that have been classified and just clean it out a bit. So the new clone LGS option basically lets you utilize the cleaning functionality in 3DR after you've done your Register 360 processing and export out the same LGS. So you're keeping the UCS, you're keeping the pictures, you're encoding the classification. And then that way, when you export it out, you just have all that information. So when you take this data set and you click on the CloudWorks group, this is important. You need to have imported the data set into the CloudWorks tab and then converted it into your like cloud group so that you can utilize this workflow. So then we go to the CloudWorks tab and it's just clone LGSX. And then in here, it gives you all of the features that are encoded in the CloudWorks object that you want to clone into the LGSX so that that information is saved. And then you can save it here. I did this before, so I will just show you. So in here, I've got the same key plan as before, or sitemap. And then when I go in, still got all the birds and stuff because I didn't take those out. But if I click on the red positions, I have my pictures and all of that information there as well. And then if I also go over to the side and look at my classification, I can see it stored that information as well. Cool. So we've covered the smart object segmentation, cloning. The next thing in terms of exciting features is definitely this scan to pipe function. So in the 24.1 edition of 3DR, there was a release of a new classification model, which was the plant 1.0 model. So it's just over here. It's got a few kind of the key features there. So this is important because you can actually use this in the scan to pipe function now. So if I just go to a smooth function for now, and then I click on the point cloud and go to my extract tab and over to scan to pipe. Up the top here, there's this filter classes. So this is a new function to the scan to pipe options. And if I just wanted to show the pipes, I could filter by those pipes at the very beginning. And when you try and fit anything to those pipes, it will only use those features that you've got available. So when you go in here and you click on the start new trace, you can now click on a pipe run and it will get the whole thing in one go. It's insane. Like to get that pipe before would have taken like maybe 12 clicks to go through, and now you just click it once and you get it. So just doing that here with some of these key ones. So you can see it's a really fast way. They've improved the user interface. So the pipes are coming through in different colors to make it slightly easier to identify the different ones. The other thing they've added in here is they've got a few different options around like setting a diameter, so you can lock the features to certain sizes if you do have set sizes for your workflows. The other new feature in this tool, so I haven't quite got it there, but the other new feature in this tool is there's a new fitter, so a phalange. and you can now extract out phalanges. So done a pretty good job there. And there's also an editing option if you want to refit them at any stage. The more points you have, the better these workflows are. That did a pretty good job there as well. If you did want to edit any of them, you can click on them and resize them as normal. So yeah, you've got filtering by different layers there, selecting certain dimensions when you're doing the fitters, and the new phalange tool. So that's kind of the key features across here. The only other thing to mention would be that when you're doing the exports, there is now a export as parametric solids. So instead of just exporting it as a mesh, you have all of those parametric solids in there. The only thing that isn't included is the reducers. Those are still being exported as meshes. Yeah, so that's kind of the key changes there. So the kind of fourth thing to cover here would be a new delivery option. The TrueView viewer, I suppose it's not a new option. It's been around for quite a while, but a lot more people are using it now because with the 25 version of 3DR, they released a free version of the 3DR viewer. So for this 3DR viewer, it's now license free. You can give it to your clients just like you would TrueView desktop, and you can go through and it's got home, view, measure. There's a few different options in here which are pretty cool. Gives your clients the option to view designs alongside the point clouds a lot easier. This is just a .3DR file that I'm looking at here, but there's a real range of file types that you can import into this viewer. So it definitely broadens your delivery options. The final thing I'm going to cover in this demo part is the points on grid. So I have here a data set of a stockpile. They have improved the rendering for the X-ray version. So if I go into flat and then increase the transparency, I find this works quite well for like stockpile data sets. So for the points on grid, it's just under the extract tab. They've done a few things. You can go here and click on to a fence option. There is a magic wand as well if you want to use that, or if you just want to isolate out the feature a bit more, if it's a bit more complex, you can do that. And isolate that area. And then I want to have lowest point, 15mm intervals. And you go preview, and you can then look at the feature codes. So you can use the feature codes that you have within the virtual surveyor toolbar. If you feed it into there, your sheet with all your feature codes and your thicknesses and colors, then you can use that same one and make sure it goes onto the correct CAD layer from the get-go, which is great. There's another delivery option as well. You can now export to CSV. So I've just got one there. I'll do another one of these. And here I can just get a CSV file out, or I can do my DXF export for CAD. So a few different options there around points on grid. All of the live demo stuff that I wanted to show you. Just to go through some of the updates in a bit more detail. So, or just to summarize some of that. The smart object segmentation under the standard edition covers the point clouds and the meshes, so you can separate out features quite easily. This definitely helps with modeling workflows if you want to isolate features, and also with cleaning. Then if you have different editions, if you've got anything other than standard, you can use it to improve your classifications. And if you have the survey edition, you can use it to improve texturization of meshes. The scan to pipe function is kind of a major overhaul of the UI. The pipe extraction is much faster with just one click for like very long pipe runs. There's some dimension lockers. There's a new asset type with phalanges. You can filter by the classification layer and export to parametric solids, which is better for those users in Rivet type applications. So all about getting complex geometries much faster and more complete compared to before. Then we have this clone LGS X function, which is probably one of the things that people are getting very excited about just under the standard edition there. So making sure that you bring in a CloudWorks LGS file and then you can clone it with the edits so that you can clean up your point cloud using all of those great 3DR cleaning functionalities. And then for points on grid, it's new fencing functionality and the ability to have the feature codes embedded along with the CSV exports. This is basically all just resulting in less rework in CAD with all of those layer conventions and also just being able to isolate exactly what you're interested in from the get-go. One thing I didn't cover was this new ability with land XML files. So when you import land XML files into the 25.1 editions and above, it can read all of the points along the alignment and it's compatible with the profile workflow. So those embedded points along the land XML file can be the exact points for the profile sections, which can be quite important for rail applications. So you can use it along there. You can also use this alignment or any other polylines that you have to then do distance to like overhead power lines and calculate clearances, and then you can get all the labels out along that section. So these two are kind of the two that I didn't cover, but very cool features as well. I did cover a bit of that improved X-ray rendering. Other things is GPS time from LAS or LAS files can now be shown along the length of a site that's a mobile data set. And there is also enhanced connectivity to our new Reality Cloud Studio platform for sharing point clouds online. So all of the positions and information from Reality Cloud Studio can now be sent through to 3DR as well. And then 3DR Viewer, definitely recommend getting this. If you want an installer, I can send it to you. Otherwise, you can get it through My World. But this is a great option for you to share out your data and have a look at it. So I've covered quite a bit of information there, but we do have a fair bit to cover. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out or put them in the questions tab right now. Just a reminder that the help and support for 3DR is constantly getting updated. If you go to RC Docs, it's got all of our products on there. And then the 3DR, Cyclone 3DR, Leica Geosystems help also has a ton of like step-by-step instructions. And also there is the Leica My World trainings, which they've been updating over the last few years. So if you look under the courses on there, anyone can sign up to these. If you've got a device in your organization, you can have lots of different signups, and there's 3 3DR courses on there at the moment. So definitely recommend giving them a go if you want to learn a bit more. So I shall now pass over to Lennon.
Thanks, Kirsty, and kia ora, everyone. Thanks for joining, and it's my pleasure today to give you an overview in the updates released this year in both the Field app for controlling the Leica scanners, that's Field 360 version 6, running on iOS and Android, and then the desktop software Cyclone Register 360 Plus 2025. So starting with the Field app, a complete overhaul. So 7 years in the market, Field 360, and a lot has changed in that time, and it was decided it was time for a complete ground up rebuild, and they've done a really nice job. So the user experience is very intuitive. It makes much better use of the screen real estate. So they have a mini player now which you can minimize while the scanner's scanning, and it allows you to work away on your registrations or your geotags while you're waiting for the scanner. And I find from first-hand experience, the connectivity is a lot more stable. So the connections to the scanners over Wi-Fi is faster, more reliable, and reconnects more reliably if you ever pop around a corner and lose connection. So I've been really impressed. And this new platform has allowed a whole host of new features and is going to be the basis for a lot more in-field operations in the future. So the big one released in version 6 is georeferencing in the field. So you can now pick targets, import control files, and have a georeferenced point cloud all in the field. And this allows other operations such as floor flatness, floor levelness, which I would always recommend using control for to verify your levelness. And so that is now possible also in the field using the app. And so if you were scanning a fresh concrete pour, you could generate a floor flatness report and export it to PDF all from the tablet in the field. They've improved the way the lightweight preview object from the RTC is streamed to the tablet, and so it's visually a lot more striking, more accurate, and it helps with registration on the tablet. And then there's a whole host of improvements for the BLK 360. You can now upgrade the firmware on the device via the Field app, upload logs, and some other improvements. So today I'm just going to focus on this georeferencing and target picking feature in the app, because I think this brings the most value to our customers. So now using Field 360, whether you're using an RTC or a BLK 360, you can now pick targets in the field, extract the vertices, and then even take it one step further, importing a control file and registering and georeferencing to that control file and get some error reporting all in the field. So the benefit is that you can spend that time while you're waiting for the scanner to do its thing, preparing your data for further processing, either on the for final export from the tablet or for further refinement back in the office and Register 360. My favorite part of the feature is the ability to pick the target and label the target and give that target a pole height if you're using poles, all in the field, so that when you import it into Register 360, you're a massive step ahead. So the workflow is to gather the point cloud, run the visual alignment, and then you can extract targets all on the tablet. If you're using an RTC 360, that target picking and fitting is actually all happening on the RTC itself, where the full volume point cloud is held. Remember, we only have the lightweight preview object available on the tablet, so that synchronization is very cleverly handled to allow very accurate target extraction on the full data set held on the RTC 360 itself. And so when you verify the result in the tablet, that data is all stored on the USB stick in the RTC 360, ready for use in Register 360 further down the workflow. You can also add your labels and your target heights, which, as I mentioned earlier, just saves you that step while you're back in the office. And if you wish to carry on with the workflow in the field, you can import your target coordinates through a simple CSV file, assign the picked targets to the control file, look at your georeferencing results with errors, full reporting, and then apply that in the field. And then all of that information, as I'll show in a live demo shortly, is taken back into Register 360 and means that you end up with very little work left to do back in the office. Just while we're on the subject of target, a good reminder on the relationship between distance to the target and resolution set on the scanner. So if you're using an RTC 360 with the 12, 6 and 3mm resolutions, bear in mind these recommended distances, which result in enough lines of scan data on the target for accurate extraction of the center of the target. Remember, it's not picking a point in the point cloud at the center, it's interpolating using the intensity readings there. So you get a really accurate pick on the center of the target. So bear in mind the maximum of 10 meters for a low resolution scan, 15 for a medium, and up to 25 with a 3mm scan. Also bear in mind the importance of having the target orientated orthogonal to the target, so you get the full size of the target for use in the picking. In the example I'm about to show later on, I use these little mini bipods with the short pole on the targets, and when you've got ground control points, nails or other control on the ground, this is a really accurate way to get your target down nice and low, and then you have a fixed target height of 0.2 of a meter for all of your targets, and it just makes all of those errors reduce and eliminate measuring height errors in the field. So these little mini bipod are available on our hire fleet or to purchase. Get in touch if you like to use them. I find them a great way of getting accurate georeferencing. So another improvement, and this is a kind of segue into Register 360 now, so leaving Field 360 behind and going into the Office software. You can now extract target vertices at the scanner position itself. So if you set up the scanner using a traditional wooden servo tripod and a tribe rack, if you set it up over a control point and measure the height, you could use that scanner position as a georeferencing object rather than have to lay out targets on the ground. The other workflow, which I'll show later on, is attaching a GNSS antenna to the scanner itself, and then that reduces or eliminates entirely the need to have targets on the ground. So this is a really nice workflow for georeferencing, super quick, saving time in the field, and makes the registration back in the office a real breeze. So these are the GNSS brackets that I mentioned. Reach out if you're interested in getting one of these. It provides a super quick workflow for georeferencing your data without the need for targets on the ground. So you finish your scan, pop the GPS on top, take a measurement, and then we bring that control file into Register 360 later, extract targets on the scanner vertices, and apply the control. And I'll show you the workflow live later on. Another nice new feature in Register 360 Plus, which is another step towards parity with the old Cyclone Core for our long-time users out there, is the ability to unify bundles all within the main review and optimize area within Register 360. So in the past, you've only been able to unify the dataset at publishing. And so say you wanted to deliver a point cloud with a certain decimation, say 5 mil decimation, in order to inspect the results and make sure that that decimation gives you the required level of detail, you had to open it up in a downstream software, inspect it, and then go back and republish if you say didn't have the required level of detail at that decimation. So now you can visualize the effects of the unification all within the software, which is saves time in terms of delivery. And then another really nice benefit of it is the ability to get yourself out of tricky registration situations. So if you've got low overlap areas and you want to say unify a selection of scans within your bundle into a single cloud and then use that to register against other clouds, then it opens that possibility as well. And I'll show you that in a live demonstration afterwards as well. So it just provides a lot of flexibility in the registration, allows you to lock down data for projects that continue into the future. Another big change in behind the hood is the whole reworking of the cloud-to-cloud backend in Register 360. So it's probably not well understood by users, but in the past, when you import your data to begin with, there are two clouds created. There is the registration cloud, or the cloud-to-cloud cloud. Excuse my overuse of the word cloud. And then there's the visual cloud, the one you see and you manipulate and export. And so these import settings, like your maximum point density, the normal deviations, the density of the cloud for registration, they will all apply to import. And so once your import was finished, there's no way to change those settings. So if you had some issues with registration and you wanted to increase your point density of that registration cloud, then the only way to do that would be to create a new project and re-import the data with a higher density set. So with the rebuilding of this backend in this 2025 version, you can change these settings and they will have a real-time effect on the registration cloud in the background. So again, just allows more flexible and better registrations, more user control over the way that registration cloud is used. So yeah, it also results in smaller project sizes because we now have a single cloud that is used for registration and visualization, smaller project sizes, more stable cleaning and exporting, and it's going to help with future development of the software. So it should make it more robust. And of last, but certainly not least, probably the most exciting improvement in the 2025 version is this vivid colors. So you'll all probably with experience have seen some pretty ugly point clouds when you have panoramic imagery from neighboring stations with very different exposures. So a good case is when you have a scan in a doorway and the pano is brightened up to give good visualization of the indoor area, and it results in sort of highly overexposed points on the outdoor areas, and you get this speckled look where light and dark points from neighboring clouds are overlapping, and it's just not particularly visually appealing. So this vivid colors uses the final registration during unification of the point cloud at publishing, recolorizes the point cloud using some very clever algorithms, and this improves the clarity, the visualization of the point cloud, removes uneven and fuzzy areas of the low density scans, and you just get this really visually amazing point cloud. Sometimes you can be forgiven for thinking you're looking at a panoramic image, but actually you're looking at the point cloud. So on the right there, the example at the top is a point cloud from an RTC 360 published in a previous version of Register 360, and in the bottom I've simply opened up that same project, republished with vivid colors applied, and you can see the marked difference, and I'll take you into the 3D data afterwards. So I'm going to jump out of this and switch over to Register 360 and run you through some live demonstrations of those key features. Windows Explorer, I've got an RTC 360 project copied off from the USB stick, and I'm going to drag and drop the whole folder into Cyclone Register 360. And now you'll see the setups pop up like you used to, the lightweight preview object rendering in the background to give you a preview of the data. Make sure you have the right project. But what is new is when I expand the Data Explorer, I have my setups, and I also have a whole lot of geotags, which are my picked targets. So these are visualized here and show me which setup they've been picked from. And I also have my control file, which I imported into the tablet and applied. And so this saves me the whole step of having to drag in my control file afterwards. Doesn't mean you need to, so you could simply do part of the workflow in the field, say just the picking and labeling and target height entry in the field, and then worry about the control file, which might not yet be available while you're in the field. Drag that in at a later date. But in this case, I drove the RTC 360 project in, and I have all of the information I need for my registration. What I really like about this is that since these targets are already picked, I don't need to pick the auto black and white option at import, and so it's going to limit the targets extracted to just those ones picked in the field. So I don't like the fact that when you import with this auto black and white target option, it creates all those links with common targets between neighboring setups. So that doesn't happen if you've picked them in the field. You can avoid that whole import step. So here I'd go import, but in this case I'm going to jump to a project I imported earlier. Save a bit of time. Okay, so this is my georeferencing project, and this is exactly how it came into the software. I haven't done any further registration after import, so it's imported the registered bundle, the targets are already picked, labeled, and have target heights associated with them, and it's applied the control file for georeferencing, all automatically. So not something that's practical on larger jobs. You'd want to go in and refine your registration and then add the control afterwards, but for simple jobs like this, pretty quick and easy workflow. So if I jump into the bundle, I can show you how the new target height functionality is visualized. So if I zoom into a target here, you can see I have the target that was picked in the field in the white there, and then I have the control coordinate, which is on the ground, a mark on the ground, and if I select the target, then my smart label is applied from what I entered in the tablet, and also my target height of 0.2 of a meter is also already there from the tablet. So it just saves a whole lot of clicking around the setup clouds, adding smart labels and heights further on. And no more reducing your control file to the target vertices, which was required in the past without the ability to have a target height entered in the software. So all in all, a really big improvement for georeferencing using targets. Okay, the second example I want to show in this project is the use of the GNSS antenna mounted on the scanner and the ability to add target vertices to the scanner positions. So I've got a second sitemap here, which if I show in your cloud viewer is just 3 setups, black and white in this case. And for each of these setups, I have a GNSS position from the antenna mounted on the top. So that's in my control file over here. I used a GSO5 attached to the top of the scanner. And there are my 3 scanner positions. As I entered the correct antenna height on the GPS receiver in the field, I don't have to worry about instrument height. So it's all reduced to the scanner vertex or scanner center. So in here, there's a couple of ways to apply a target at the scan position. I could have done it at import. So under my general settings, it's running slow. Here we go. Under general, you can add target at setup position. So if you had a GPS position for every one of your scan positions, you could select this option and it would add a vertex at every scan position. In this case, I haven't. So, oops, so I'm just going to cancel that. I can do it afterwards. So by right-clicking on the bundle, there's a new option, Add Target at Setup Position, and that will do it for every setup in the bundle. You can see the targets. They look just like targets added on target positions, but they're at the scanner position. I could also put in a height, so if I'd centered the scanner over a mark on the ground, I could enter the height of it above to apply. But in this case, I've got the GNSS antenna sitting on top of the scanner. And so then I can simply right click on this, apply control, select my GPS positions. I haven't labeled these targets, but I can automatically do the vector matching in the background to match the correct scanner position to the GPS height position. And there we go. Georeference without any targets on the ground. So pretty neat workflow for georeferencing very quickly and easily. Right, another thing I want to show you, the last thing I want to show you actually is this vivid point clouds, and actually the data I collected yesterday for this is a really good example of how it works. So if I turn off the scan positions, you can see this scan position that I took in the doorway of our office here in Christchurch was overexposed to compensate for the dark warehouse inside, and then you see this speckled data going on to the outside, overlapping on the well-exposed outside scans. And in the past, if you wanted to get a pretty looking point cloud, you'd have to go through and clean out this speckled data from the setup in the doorway to make it look pretty. So when you publish with vivid colors, so if I go through to the finalize step, set my sitemap, and under your publish options, you've got apply vivid colors to point cloud, and this little asterisk pops up when it's enabled. You then get the following results. If I cancel this, jump straight to my previously published registration. You've got this new option down here to visualize the published point cloud within this report area. So the vivid colors is not visible within the review and optimize, only at the reporting and in the deliverables. So what I'm looking at here when I click the point cloud on the deliverable or the finalized registration is this vivid colors, and you can see that white speckled area, although it's still differentiated from the rest, is much cleaner looking than before. So a lot easier to work with for someone modeling further down the track or using this for visualization purposes. Another good example I've got, I showed it earlier, is in TrueView. So these are the two LGS files published, open in the free TrueView app. And so here on the left is the data published in a previous version of Register 360, RTC 360 data. And this is the exact same project opened in 2025 and published with vivid colors. So I didn't re-register, didn't modify it in any other way, just applied the vivid colors, and the difference is just amazing. You can be forgiven for thinking you're looking at a panorama image at times. Look at the difference. So definitely make use of the vivid colors at export. And I said it was the last feature, but I've got one more for you, bonus. So last project is this, using this unification within Register 360. So this data will be familiar for those of you who joined us at the recent Survey and Spatial workshop. This is captured in Victoria Square, just outside the Christchurch Town Hall. And what we did is captured 4 RTC 360 scans on the top of the bridge. And we then, to get the underside of the bridge, which is difficult with a tripod mounted scanner because this is all water running under here, a river, we put the RS10 SLAM scanner on top of a remote control boat, the Apache 4, and then ran the scanner underneath the bridge to capture the underside. And this is the result here. So this is captured from a remote control boat, nice and safe. And you can see we got the underside of the bridge in good detail. And here's a good example of where it's advantageous to unify a bundle of scans in order to improve the registration. So in previous versions, if we want to register the SLAM data to our terrestrial scans from the RTC 360, we have to choose one of these scans to register it with. So I might choose setup 6 and SLAM data and then do a visual alignment. But I've only got limited overlap from this single scan with this data from under the bridge. So what I'd much rather do is unify these 4 scans and then register the unified bundle against my RS10 data. So what I've done is selected that bundle, right click and then unify it. And you could decimate it at this point if you wanted. In this case I didn't, I just pushed OK and created a unified bundle. And the result is this here, unified RTC 360 bundle. So you still have your setups available within there, so that imagery is preserved, but the cloud is unified. And so then, to register, I select any of the setups in that unified bundle. The other scan I want to register, go into a visual alignment. And now I can bring the two together, and I'm using all 4 RTC 360 scans and not just one. Side view, it's all good. So when I register it, I'm now using the overlap from all 4 scans as a single bundle against my SLAM data, and I can bring the two together with a nice overlap. Nice overlap. And the two have joined together. And if I look at my registered bundle, it's got terrestrial data on top and underneath, SLAM data, and I have a nice complete data set. So that's all I had to show you in Register 360. And just to summarize, There's some changes you should be aware of. So multiple installs of Register 360 are now possible. So the 2025 installer does not automatically remove any existing versions. So you can see up the top here, if I'm in the Windows settings, I can see I've got the latest or the previous 2024 version installed in parallel with 2025. So if you only want to keep one version in use, then you have to manually uninstall any previous versions. It does mean that you can install the latest version, test it on some new projects before you move all of your existing projects over. So you might want to finish off jobs in previous versions. So it gives you some flexibility. What I'd recommend if you are going to keep multiple versions is to rename the shortcuts so it avoids confusion. Otherwise, sometimes lose track of which version you have open. I talked about the whole reworking of the registration cloud. So be aware that this affects backwards compatibility. So if you've registered any data in 2025, don't take it back into an older version because you won't be able to modify the registration in that older version. So best not to work with projects created in the latest version and older versions of the product. And then last comment in terms of the RTC firmware. So there is a new version 7 of the RTC 360 firmware, which goes together with the latest Field 360 version. You can import, if you upgrade your RTC, you can import that version 7 data into an old version of Register 360, but you just won't be able to take advantage of those new features like target picking and pole heights. So to take full advantage of all the improvements, make sure you're on the latest version 7 of RTC firmware, Field 366 or above, and Register 360 plus 2025.0.1 now. Over to you, Kirsty.
Got a few questions coming in right now. If you guys have any more questions, please add them in now. So I can see a few that have come through. So first question is, will we get scans pipe in Cyclone Register 360? Unfortunately, I reckon that's still going to be separated out. Leica has a bit of a differentiation between their registration software being Register 360 and their extraction software being Cyclone 3DR. So scans pipe in Register 360 is unlikely. Will these vivid colors have much of an impact on file size? No, it's just a better recolorization algorithm. So the file size using vivid colors should be much the same as before, just improve colorization. Interesting, I never thought of that one before. Where do I find out more information about floor flatness and floor levelness reports? If you go to the RC docs, there is a bit of information on there about that workflow, and there is also quite a useful YouTube video about it. But I'm happy, Kelly, to send you a link to that directly. Got some more coming in now as well. One about the interpolation comment Lennon made. Can you clarify what Lennon meant by the field target picks being interpolated? So for those of you that are familiar with the target picking workflows in Register 360, if you use the black and white targets to get your target centers, it will have a point that's interpolated and kind of floating in space. It's the center position of the target based on all the points that have been captured of the target. Whereas if you go for the virtual target workflow, it's actually attaching the target vertex to a point that you pick on exactly. So the field workflow that Lennon was showing and discussing is using that interpolation method to get the center point floating in space when you pick the targets via Field 360. Hope that makes sense. And then what conference training is Lennon referring to? So that one was the Survey and Spatial Conference. For the Survey and Spatial Conference, Lennon did a reality capture training day along with some of our team down in Christchurch this year. We have been doing this quite a bit recently for the conferences. I think that's our second reality capture training day before conference, Survey and Spatial. So if you're interested in attending that, we'll be sure to send out some more information next time. Another question is, do you have stock of these GPS attachments? So I believe this one is referring to the picture Lennon showed of the attachments on top of the BLK 360s and the RTC 360s. We got rather excited by those. It's a company over in Switzerland, I believe. It's been all over LinkedIn recently, so we've just ordered some stock of those and expect it to come in a month. A few more questions. Probably not going to get through all of these, so I will send through some emails to the ones we don't get to today. Do external Wi-Fi/jammers disturb the connection between the scanner and the tablet? Someone's mentioned that one happening around an airport. Yes, so Wi-Fi can interfere with the connection between the tablet and the scanner. If that happens to you, what you can do is like keep going, and then once you get the signal back, you can do all the like links at that point. Yeah, unfortunately, airports tend to have a lot of Wi-Fi repeaters as well, and that can also affect the signal. So yeah, it will come back as soon as you get back in connection again. And I think that is all the main ones now. I'll do one more last one. So someone's mentioning issues with the drag and drop functionality, asking if it accepts only certain files. So yeah, the level that you drag at does make a difference. If you're using RTC 360 data, dragging the .rtc 360 project file is usually the best way for the drag and drop, and also having the data local is a preference there. If you are still having issues with that, feel free to reach out to support@globalsurvey.co.nz, and we would be more than happy to help you with that. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending today. And yeah, hope you enjoy the updates and reach out if you have any questions.